Day 122. Today I spent mostly running around doing errands, and then afterwards I went to the studio to work on my sculpture. It's pretty early stages, so there's nothing but really taking off material at this moment. So I'm just going to draw the raw kind of cube that it is in at this current moment. I really wish I had some time to work on the highlights and shadows and the feather and mortise holes that were on the sculpture, but today's just not that day, and it's good enough, I guess. Day 123. When the sun was setting, there was a cloud cover above, and obviously beneath it was quite dark because it was the final minutes of the day, and the sun was just at the right angle where it cast a strip of really vibrant orange light on a certain altitude. So in the valley, the bluffs, there was a strip of just orange light hitting them, as well as this grain tower. And so I was gonna actually paint the grain tower with a small piece of orange light hitting it. Everything and how it's going today, it kind of matches up. I tried really hard to save it multiple times, but I think just too late in the night, or maybe I should have just done the tower, but it's okay, but I'm definitely not satisfied just because of how the different shades and things came out. But I don't know, I guess it's on to the next. Day 124. Today, I pretty much spent all day inside, and I knew I just had to get out of the house just to, I don't know, breathe a little bit before painting and going to bed or whatever. So I went down and to the river, kind of closer to Lake Street, and I kind of just came across this, I guess it was a inlet or an outlet of water, and the waves from the boats that would come down the river, and I was just watching how the waves would come in and out of this inlet. And I'm just gonna paint this picture that I took as I was watching. So pretty simple. I was planning to do the whole kind of picture, but I realized I made it again kind of too big. My last painting was a little bit too big, so hopefully tomorrow can be something small and simple. Day 125. Today was the MS walk, and I went out with the whole family to do it. And one of my favorite things that I saw that was MS related was the saying MS is BS. And so I think I'm going to draw the whatever thing, I don't know what it's called, but at the end of marathons, walks, whatever, they have that big kind of arch or gate. I think I'm going to just paint that with MSSBS as the main lettering on it. Well, I'll tell you what, MS is some BS. Day 126. Today I started something new, and it was one of those situations where I'm very conflicted on how I want to feel about it, and I don't know how to feel about it, where almost you don't know if it's going to be a good thing, or how you're seeing it right now is distorted. So I think I'm going to just be painting. I have a kind of an idea of what I want it to look like, but it's definitely going to be more of a abstract palette of black and white, obviously. So I guess we'll just have to see if I can bring it out onto the canvas. Obviously, I'd prefer to do it on a really large scale, and almost like it would be cool to do something like this on a large Rothko scale where it's just giant. I'd definitely have more control over my paintbrush, where this one is still too big to be precise at this small dimensions, almost like probably 5 inches by 5 inches. So I'm happy with it, and be interesting to play with different mediums as well. Maybe I'll do more abstract as the year goes along. Day 127. Today I was sitting over here looking at the canvas, and there's a bee that got in through my window since I don't have any, what's it called, screens on my windows. And it was just kind of floating around on the canvas. And so I thought I'd paint him here, probably on this horizontal. Well, it's not my best and it's not my worst, and I'm pretty sure anyone would be able to tell that's a bee, so it's a success in my books. Day 128. I was sitting at the park today watching a group of kids play flag football. I was kind of in a mindset that's not normal. I guess I just felt a little weird, and I was just observing things, and I realized this group of people and how they're moving in between each other were just kind of like a lot, like I really zoomed out, and it's kind of just like a lot of dots converging. And obviously this is a kind of basic explanation, but I'm going to try to put it on the canvas in some sort of way. And when I thought of this and how I wanted to kind of get this out, was Ed Ruscha's one of his favorite, I guess, pieces of art is Dada, this beetle painting that kind of has this weird kind of movement and storytelling. So I want to try to do that with this painting today. Quite happy with how it turned out. I kind of looked at it as a topographical, like from a bird's point of view almost, of the players. And when I originally visioned it, I saw it more as I guess, squiggly lines and a lot more instead of just kind of 6. I think 6 is there. Yeah. But then obviously space, and it would look bad. And I knew once I hit the white with the black charcoal and paint, I knew it was going to turn gray. So didn't want it to get too messy, and I feel like I gave it enough space to have it still breathe, and you can kind of see what I was seeing. Day 129. Today I spent most of my day at the studio working on my sculpture, and I was looking at what I should paint or how I should do it. I'm going to take this head that I have over here and just paint a stone chisel going into it, because my sculpture is going to be a head as well, so I might as well use the head that I have on the canvas to connect today. I was thinking about adding more edges, but I knew for a fact with my reputation of messing things up, I'm just gonna leave it be. Day 130. Nothing really exciting happened today, so to look back at, I guess the highlight was probably this morning for breakfast I had some avocado toast. So I'm just gonna come over to my food corner and paint that today. It's kind of hard to differentiate the different tones of a painting that small, but I guess you can kind of tell what it is. Day 131. Today I was actually walking down an alley, and I came about a big cottonwood, and it had these little steps, or I guess steps, ladders, whatever, they're in the tree to kind of go up to a tree house, but there was no tree house. And it kind of struck me because I guess I'd love to return to that state, that childlike state of climbing a tree in that moment. I just kind of wanted to escape into this huge tree. So I think I'm going to paint that up here on the canvas today. Don't even try to ask me what happened to those branches, but the rest of the trunk of the tree I'm pretty satisfied with. Can't go too crazy on the detail with the bark because that would take a heck of a lot longer, but it's all right. Day 132. Today was my first time playing Fortnite in probably at least 3 years, and nothing really else happened, so I'm going to be painting the D-pad. And FYI, I got in top 5, but for some reason there's TIE fighters from Star Wars in Fortnite now, so I guess that really explains the state of that game. But yeah, I'm just going to paint the D-pad of the controller over on the canvas. Well, hopefully next time I'll get the Vicroy. Day 133. Today I decided to go take a kettlebell and work out outside in a park. And so I think I'm going to be painting a kettlebell over here just because it's kind of the highlight of my day since work was the only thing else that filled my day. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Well, I realized white lettering wasn't going to work because of the mix of black and white on the actual bell. So I tried to fix it, and I guess it kind of worked, but learned another lesson, I guess. Day 134. When I was walking outside this morning to go over and sit down, one of the first things I noticed was there was a bunch of blue jays flying across my peripheral. And I don't know if it's all birds, but I feel like blue jays mainly are the ones that have this position where they're in between, I guess, flaps or wing, I don't know, rotations, I don't know what you call it, but they're almost in like a bullet form where they're super aerodynamic, and I think I'm gonna try to paint that here. And I think I'm gonna try to go pretty fast to evoke the motion that they're in. Like obviously they wouldn't be in this, I don't know, form if they're sitting still, so that's what I'm gonna put on the canvas. I think it turned out pretty well. There's a couple shades in there where it got a little, I don't know, iffy, but the overall shape and what I was going for, I think I nailed. So it's a win in my book. Day 135. Today I did a lot of, I guess, fun things, but one of them was, or memorable things, more as. One of them was sitting under a cottonwood reading, which I haven't really just sat down and read for a while. But I'm going to be taking the cottonwood that I painted a couple days ago and painting over this ugly, whatever, failed branch. I'm just going to be painting a leaf because I like the way cottonwood leaves move in the wind, so that's what we're going to be doing. Well, I don't think I nailed the kind of teeth that are known for cottonwood tree leaves, but I think it's much better than what it was, just the blob of paint that was on it before, so it's a win in my book. Day 136. Before work, I spent most of my day in the workshop. Today I was specifically doing samples of burn tests on the wood, different ways of burning it and whatever. But I'm going to be painting just a block of charred wood down here for today's painting. I would like it to be a little less clear, but it's pretty hard to really differentiate the tones of an all black thing like burnt wood, so I think I did as best I could have done. Day 137. Today I spent the day at the studio and it was raining outside, or more drizzling, and the cement was getting obviously wet by the rain, but not enough where it covered it, and so there's these different shades of darker colors of cement that were getting filled in by the rain. So I'm going to be trying to paint that today. Well, when I was doing the layers of different shades, it felt a little too sharp, so then I took a paintbrush with no paint on it and kind of swirled it around to kind of blend them together, like how they kind of blend together on the sidewalk. Obviously it doesn't look anything like it, but I think it's better than just leaving them as blotches. Still unsure about it, whether it's a complete success or a complete failure. I guess it's just one of those experiments. Day 138. Not a lot going on today, but I do feel like, I don't know, things are cracking at the seams. I don't know how to really describe it, but I was looking at where I should paint on the canvas today, and I noticed this little crack on the head that I added when maybe just a couple days into 2025. And I feel like this crack has done nothing but open up and get bigger. So I'm going to be, I guess, adding to this already crack in the face that was originally ice. Well, because I used a bigger brush, it looks more like a virus, which kind of the same principle, where it's coming from one specific place and spreading out, but because it still looks the same, kind of. Day 139. Today was quite a lousy day, and because it's Sunday and I feel like there's so much ahead this week, quite discouraged that, I don't know, or just really exhausted. And that feeling is a feeling of, I don't know, the darkness taking over even before I was able to have, quote, light this week, which is, I see as rest and recover. So I'm going to be painting this corner. I've already done a layer of white, so I'm just going to be, I don't know, bringing some black over it to show that. It's been a hectic week. Well, at least I have something in that corner now that doesn't look horrible, because it's impossible to reach and pretty much have to lay down to paint to it. So it's not the greatest, but evocative. Oh, I hate that word. Day 140. Just going to be doing some sketching today. Day 141. Day 142. Today I spent most of the day reading not Hemingway's work, but how he wrote about writing. There was, I think it was called, the book was, I've returned it already, but A Good Life, or The Good Life According to Hemingway, and he pretty much is writing about just kind of short little excerpts about life and writing and the experience. So I'm going to be painting just his face over here, just as today's painting, I guess. When I think of Hemingway, I think of his big white beard, so I did originally have some eyes and nose and other facial features, but one, I'm not technically skilled enough to make it look even halfway decent. Two, it's just too small to even really work on it. So you can identify this painting with his beard. Day 143. Today I was at the Walker Art Center, and when I was walking out of the museum, the Basilica of St. Mary was ringing their bells constantly for around 10 minutes because I think they had some sort of graduation. And obviously it kind of took me surprise because I don't think I've ever heard them being rung for that long, and just walking out and going from silence to these bells that are, I guess, the sounds bouncing off all the different buildings around and constantly. It wasn't just a couple minutes or to have some sort of service done, so it was pleasant, of course. So I think I'm going to be painting Basilica of St. Mary, or maybe just the bell tower for today's painting. Well, obviously it's not perfect, and I kind of leaned into the fact that I will never be perfect on my angles or anything. I'm not a good enough painter, but I think it does the job of capturing what I experienced today, and I'm happy with the end finished product. Day 144. Today I mainly was sketching out a new plan for my furniture project. As you can see here, this was kind of the original idea, to have the black fading from the top down, but because of details that I won't get into, I'm actually going to have live edge and it fading from the middle, or black to outwards fading. So that's what I'm going to paint today on the canvas. I actually really like how this turned out. Not only that the painting itself turned out, but the fact that it looks good in the painting, and therefore I think it will look good in the final piece. It will kind of lay the ground of an idea that I had, or the evolution of this project is also on the canvas in multiple different forms. And this form plays a huge factor into the overall aesthetic of the project, and therefore I'm actually happy with today's painting. Day 145. Today I was driving back from Minnetonka, and on the way back I felt this kind of, I guess, everything falling into place, but not in a, I would say, particularly like good way. It was more of a weight of the present moment. I think just because of a lot of time outside the present and thinking about the future and to-do lists and things like that, I haven't felt that in a while, and I didn't feel it for a while I was driving. And so it was like maybe a couple seconds, but everything kind of aligned. And I believe I should probably paint that as today's painting. I'd originally thought of the middle white line to be really, really thin, coming in from some thick, I guess, layers. But I think it turned out as good as I expected. Day 146. Today I went to a car show with the family and got to ride in my uncle's new, what's it called, convertible, Mustang convertible. So I had a really good time doing that, and I think I'm gonna paint just the top of the car, kind of the windshield, to resemble the highlight of today's riding with that drop top. Well, she ain't perfect and she ain't pretty, so I think she'll do though. Day 147. While I was sitting in my living room, my window was open and a cottonwood seed somehow got in my window and right in front of my face. So I was thinking of ways I could draw it or show it falling, but I thought of an idea of where I could paint over it. And I've had this observation while I paint, because when I look closely, I think some of the bristles are stuck within the gesso. And so I thought, why don't I paint it in the painting? But I don't think that would look good, because it would just look like a black blob with a slight bump, because this cottonwood seed is so small. But I think I'm gonna try to paint over it and then pull it off, and then whatever's left that went through, I guess kind of as a template, will be the painting for today. Well, that most definitely failed for a multitude of reasons. One, I think I had too much paint. Maybe if I had a really small amount, it would have worked. But I guess for next time that I try to paint onto a cottonwood seed, if that ever happens. Well, I guess the original idea was just having it painted in the canvas. So I guess we did that. I did that, whatever. Try to make it kind of sort of look like a cottonwood seed as well, but next one, please. Day 148. Yet another day at the studio working on a sculpture piece. And today it's kind of the first time I think using the angle grinder. I was just trying to flatten out the base, so I think I'm just gonna try to have the dust flowing around with the angle grinder as today's painting. I think it turned out pretty well. Obviously it's quite one-dimensional, but for 12 in the morning, I think it's well enough. Day 149. Painting this for last night. I'm not actually painting it because it was so late I didn't have time to paint, but last night I was closing up shop and there was a specific light. I guess there was only one light illuminating the room. It just caught my attention, and I'm going to be painting that kind of off memory, because I don't want to really paint it off exactness, just because of my vision and how it would turn out would not be great. So that's going to be my attempt for today. Well, because it started to go quite bad, I decided to take a different route and kind of stick with the same theme of a bar. I wouldn't say I'm satisfied, but I think I recovered it to some level. Better than what it was going down, so it's gonna have to be what it's gonna be. Day 150. Just yet another day working on the sculpture, pushing away with these projects that I'm all working on, including this one. Today I don't really have much unique idea. I think I'm just gonna do a quick sketch, almost with the paint, of the sculpture and how I'm chiseling away on it. So that's gonna be it. Well, it represents how smoothly my sculpture project is going, which is not the smoothest. And I guess it pairs well with the chaotic computer that I almost rubbed all the charcoal off. Day 151. Today I was going for a walk and I stopped to take a photograph of a bunch of leaves of grass. This one being it, and I walked past it thinking of nothing after taking the photograph, and then I walked past by them again, and I thought of the kind of experiment I did with the cottonwood seed a couple days ago, and thought it'd be interesting to try to paint this leaf of grass with the leaf of grass. So that's what I'm going to be attempting today. Well, I actually I think it turned out quite well, even though it doesn't look exactly like the leaf of a grass. The fact that it gave a unique kind of look to it, just because of the splaying of, quote, leaves that spread across with the paint, but there's that kind of really rough outline of the leaf of grass kind of sprouting up. It's obviously a challenge where it was mostly me pressing against the leaves because it's so light, and also the fact that there are some leaves stuck to the canvas now because they fell off. So pretty happy about it. Day 152. Today I was doing my last cuts or last test cuts for my furniture project, and other than that it was just work, so I think I'm going to be doing a simple painting of that today. Definitely not my opus, but for today it will suffice.